Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Amy Belote and I'm the Vice President of Operations for Summer Science Program. Welcome to the admissions webinar. I have a few people here with me to help, Richard Bowden, as well as several alumni, and they're all going to speak later. So I'm going to go through and tell you a little bit about what SSP is in general, and then some of the details for this coming summer. And then each of the alumni will talk for just a few minutes and share a bit about their experience. And then we'll have plenty of time for questions and answers. That will be mostly through the chat. Although if that's not possible for you, we can let you come off mute and talk, but we'll try and manage everything through the chat. So some of those will be answered in the chat and some of them out loud. And I'll go ahead and share my screen so we can get started. Okay, my Zoom. Bear with me a minute while the Zoom window blocks what I need to do. Here we go. Are we all set with the slides? Everyone can see it? Okay, Richard, if you would continue to enter, let people enter from the waiting room, I'll go ahead and get started. Again, welcome if you just joined. I'm Amy Belote, the Vice President of Operations for Summer Science Program. Welcome to the 2023 admissions webinar. So we'll start with what is SSP? And I will begin to tell you what it is by telling you what it is not. There are a couple of things that SSP is not. It's not a camp. There is occasionally a little bit of time to kick the soccer ball around, or there's a couple field trips, but you're not there for those recreational activities. It's a place where you go to work, it's intensive, and it's all about the research. And so it is not what you would think of as a camp. We don't call it that. And more importantly, it's not a school. You all know what school is like, and SSP is not like that for a couple of reasons. One is that there are no grades at SSP. You do work and you get feedback on your work, but you don't get an A. No one wins SSP and gets number one. There's no ranking or anything like that. So SSP is not school. You will learn things. You will sit in a classroom and hear new material and practice exercises, but it's all specifically for the research that you're doing. So all that learning feeds into what you're working on in that day or in that week. So SSP is not a camp and it's not a school. So what is it? SSP is an immersive experience in experimental science, which has evolved over 6 decades to meet the very specific needs of rising high school seniors who are smart and motivated in STEM. So let's look at a couple of those words. SSP is immersive, and we like to compare it to going on a mission on a submarine. So you and the other participants in the faculty are getting on this craft together, and you are going to be solely focused on the mission that you're working on there together. You all have the same purpose and the same goals, and you are working together, and there's no one else around, and you are also cut off from your normal work or school or social life. It's completely immersive. There's not time to also be doing any other mission at the same time as you're doing SSP. Smart and motivated in STEM. You might think, wonder what that means, and imagine it's describes probably a lot of you. Imagine so far in your high school career, you've been like a race car, but you're driving in the city. So it's pretty slow. There's lots of obstacles and there's lots of other people around that you have to navigate around. And that's been your experience in school so far, perhaps. And at SSP, your car is out on the open highway and there is no speed limit. You can learn as much and as fast as you are able to. So the SSP experience will help you focus and upgrade your personal goals and aspirations. We're not necessarily trying to make you into an astrophysicist or a biochemist. that might happen and it might not, and either way, that's okay. But we want you to understand whether that feels like a good fit for you, or perhaps it doesn't and you feel like you want to explore something else. But after SSP, you'll know more about that. At this point in your high school career, you might be thinking ahead to college and wondering what it would be like to major in a STEM field at a selective college. And you might also be thinking ahead to your career and wonder what it might be like to be a scientist doing research. And you might also wonder what it's like to feel like you're in a community of people who are at least as smart as you and maybe smarter. And after SSP, you will have the answers to those questions. So how do we do it? Each program has 7 faculty and 36 participants working in research teams of 3. And this year, there's one exception to that. The Genomics program will have 24 instead of 36 just for this year. But most programs are 36 participants, 7 faculty, and the participants are assigned to a team of 3, and they work in that team throughout the whole program. And these are the SSP values. They're on the website, and we'll visit the website together in just a minute. But these values are not just words on the website. They are played out in what really happens at SSP every day. So you'll experience collaboration. You might not have experienced that truly in high school yet. You'll become a member of the community. There'll be exploration, inclusiveness, and working with integrity. And before we go over to the website, a lot of people ask, what are my chances? Or are my chances higher or lower if I've done this, or if I talk about that other thing in my essay? We don't know what your chances are because applications are reviewed holistically. There isn't any one thing that is going to turn that dial of chances up or down. And it's not really a worthwhile question anyway. The chances are low. SSP is competitive, and most people who apply do not get in, even if they have perfect grades and perfect test scores. Most people don't get in. So why should you apply? One easy answer is it's good practice for applying to college. You'll have an experience that you're going to have next year when you apply to college. So it's good to get practice, get a little bit of a foundation with your essays, and it'll be that much easier for you when fall comes and you start applying to college. And it's also good practice for failing. SSP includes failure. There's experiments that don't work. There are cloudy nights and the telescope can't see anything. There are things that go wrong, and you learn how to fail together and how to move on. So this is a good time to start practicing that. You might fail, you might apply and not get in, and that's okay. You'll be able to do something else. But it's good to take a risk. So it doesn't matter if your chances of getting in are a little bit higher or a little bit lower than another person. Everyone's chances are low, but they're 0 if you don't apply. So your chance of getting in is 0 if you do not apply. So you might as well apply, and then it will be something that's not 0. We don't know exactly what it is for you, but it's worth taking that chance. At this point, we're going to go over to the website. Let me change my screen share. A lot of the questions that have been asked in the registration and that we hear a lot on Discord and get emailed to us are found on the website. So I want you to feel comfortable going here and knowing where to look for answers to your questions. I'm starting here at the values that we looked at a moment ago. But you can find details about this summer. We'd like everyone to start here under Explore. What is SSP? So this tells you what it's about. If you read this and are excited about it, then you should apply. Is SSP for you? Talks about the type of student who does well at SSP. So if you read this and it sounds like something you would like to do, then you should apply. There are prerequisites. But this is it. It's just a few classes. You don't have to have other extracurriculars or a certain GPA or any particular test score. These are the only prerequisites. So each project is listed here: astrophysics, biochemistry, and genomics. When you apply, you'll have to choose one. You can change it during the application process, but once the deadline is here, you can't change it after that. So make sure that you have selected the correct project before your deadline day. And each of these three lists has a description of what the project is about. And you can see on each of these, it'll tell you what academic topics are covered. Each of these also has a list of the faculty, and we're starting to update this for 2023. If you've looked at it a month ago, you might have still seen the 2022 names and faces. And it also lists the host campuses for each project. So astrophysics is run on 3 campuses, biochemistry on 2, and genomics on just 1 campus. So you can go here and find out all about all 3 projects, all 6 campuses, and the dates are listed here as well. So you can find all of that under the Explore tab. And then we'll move over to the Apply, under the Apply tab. This is how you get to the application. When you click that orange button, you get to this page with some explanation. This is all, we've worked on these instructions, so if you read this, you will know how to apply. You'll start with registering, then you'll come back and log in and use these items on the left menu to navigate to the different pieces of the application. I do want to go over here to financial aid. The financial aid page describes what the financial aid process is like. It gives some guidelines. It's free to apply to SSP, and we grant generous need-based financial aid. The application for financial aid is different for international applicants and US applicants. So if you're applying as an international applicant, the financial aid application is due at the same time your application to the program is due. However, if you are a US applicant,
you can buy a tower for $1.46.
If you're a US applicant,
you can rent out a whole freaking castle for like 500 bills.
We can find them and mute. Okay, thank you. So if you are a US applicant, your financial aid process begins if you are admitted to the program. So at that point, you would be invited to apply. If you're an international applicant, you'll see that request to send the application to your parents' email is built within your application. US, you'll just wait until you see if you're admitted. And the program fee is $8,400 this year. That's all inclusive, ground transportation, room and board. And there are many people who receive financial aid and don't pay that. They pay some portion of that amount, and there are some applicants who attend for free. So don't let that deter you. Go ahead and apply for financial aid. And let me also show you here the we have a couple of different frequently asked questions pages. I'm not going to go through any of this, but I want you to know that this is here so that you can read through these, and perhaps your question's already been asked, in which case it'll be answered here. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to the alumni. They're going to take turns one at a time and tell you a little bit about their experience at SSP. Thank you, alumni, for being here and for being willing to share your stories. JD, you can go ahead and start.
Oh yeah, hi everyone. I'm really glad that I get to share my experience at SSP. So my name is JD Hagood. I'm from Clinton, Mississippi, and I attended the astrophysics program at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. And as someone who attended this program, I can vouch it is as academically immersive as advertised. And I'm even willing to say that at some points during the lectures, I had no idea what was going on. But the good thing was that there's a lot of really good instructors there and TAs who, whenever I had a question, I could go to them, and they really helped me out throughout the program. And while I love this academic immersion, what I most prominently remember about the program was definitely the other participants. They're some of the greatest people I've ever met in my life, and I'm still in contact with a lot of them today. On the first week, I was in the lab looking at the whiteboard, and then someone had been doing integrals, and I really like integrals, so I kind of asked around and figured out who it was who had been doing those integrals, and we immediately bonded over our mutual love for solving these tricky integrals and math problems. And we spent a lot of late nights in the labs, kind of challenging each other with these different integrals that we'd solved over our academic careers. And I learned a lot from him, and he learned a lot from me, and we're still in contact to this day, sending problems back and forth. And without this program, I never would have met this guy, and it's really an amazing. It's really amazing that I was able to meet him. We're even able to host like an impromptu integration bee, which was a lot of fun. All this to say that I doubt that if I attended any other summer program, I would have had an experience quite like this. And attending SSP was definitely one of the best decisions that I've ever made. And if I had the opportunity to do it again, I would take it in a heartbeat. So I'll pass the mic over to Gabriella.
Hello, my name is Gabriella. I am from Utaipa, California, and I attended SSP Astrophysics program at University of Colorado Boulder this past summer. I have to say the values of SSP are definitely evident in the program itself. The community and collaboration is definitely my favorite part. The problem sets were definitely the most challenging I have ever done, but with the TAs and all the other participants, I was like able to complete them, and it was definitely the most like rewarding experience in my life. I had like the opportunity to make lifelong friends. We're still like talking every day over Discord and Zoom meetings. And I also loved the research. It was really an awesome opportunity to have the like be able to actually do science and like see what life as a researcher is like. Alexis, do you want to go?
Sure, yeah, of course. Yeah, SSP. Oh, by the by, I'm Alexis McAvoy. I'm from San Mateo, California, and I was in the biochemistry program at Purdue University last summer. And I have to say, SS is probably one of my best experiences ever. It's definitely a very unique experience that I didn't really know what it was, but if I can try to recount it, it's not like doing lab in a science class. It's very special, I'd say. Like you're put in a group of people, and you're given like this very large task to confront over the course of 6 weeks, and then you have really difficult and demanding but interesting lectures to help you get through it, and different assignments and really helpful professors and TAs and whatnot that help you guide your way through this journey. And I really loved being able to collaborate with other people and just really work through these problems as a team. And then also just seeing what a career in science would look like, because I've always been interested in that. And I think after doing SSP, I was really able to realize that I love doing research, especially like in a team environment. And then SSP also has some field trips to different labs and stuff. So it also gives you some insight into what research outside of college or university might look like. And overall, I think it's a really good way to kind of test out what research would feel like for you, and also just to be in this more intimate yet rigorous research environment and get to learn with all these amazing peers. So I'll pass it on to actually another biochemistry at Purdue participant, Julia, if you'd like to share.
All right. Hi, I'm Julia. I'm from Fairfield, Connecticut, and I attended the Purdue program Biochemistry at 2022. I came in to SSP with essentially no lab experience except for like science classes. Like I didn't know how to use a pipette, and I was presented with this huge problem. And I think SSP did a really good job of showing me like what a career in sciences looked like, and really brought me to the level of like that of knowledge about like what a career in research looks like. And a way that they did that, which I was really surprised about, was the guest lecturers. Some of the guest lecturers like Tyrone Hayes, or there's a woman from Purdue at NASA, and they're really interesting. They're not technically biochemistry related always, but they really showed you what a scientist's perspective is, and I thought it brought a lot to me as a person, and I now know a bit more about what I want to do in college because of it. I'll hand it off to Beto with Genomics.
Thank you. I also was at the Purdue campus, but as a genomics student, this past summer was the first cohort for the genomics class. So I'm very, very proud of that. But right, so I just wanted to talk about, I guess, how SSP changed me and what I really appreciate about it. I really think it changed a lot of my perspectives on things in my life. First of all, like on perspectives about myself. I think before I participated in SSP, I never really had a direction in terms of what I wanted to do in my future. And I think being able to go to SSP and have such mentorship from professors that you're able to work with and TAs that you're able to work with and ask questions to, and also have classmates, people your age who have your same interests in the same things that you're interested in and have the same amount of rigor that you have. I think everything put together really creates an experience that's unlike any other. It really opened my eyes to what my capabilities were, especially being able to talk to several different guest lectors, like Julia was saying. Being able to ask them questions about their field really opened my eyes to what there was in the field of, or specifically for my program, genomics and bioinformatics. Because before SSP, I really had no clue. And apart from that, obviously, it was a very fun experience. We like to say, we never say the C word. We don't call it a camp. We call it an experience. And I think that's very special. It's very important, and that's something that should be taken into account when you're applying to this. That you're not only signing up for something that's insanely rigorous, something that you'll be putting several hours into, but also a place where you can meet people who are like you and who you can have fun with as well, while also being in that academic environment. So thank you, and I'll pass it on to Neil, I guess.
Hi everyone, I'm Neil. I'm from Morgan Hill, California, and I did the astrophysics program 2 summers ago, online unfortunately, but I guess all the other alumni talked a lot about the academics, so I'll just agree with them and say that it was the greatest academic experience I've had until college for sure, and probably still, honestly. And I'd like to talk a lot more about the people, just because I think the people that I encountered at SSP were probably the most fun STEM students I've ever met in my entire life, and I'm still in contact with pretty much half of my campus, which is really crazy considering we all did this program online 2 summers ago, and we kind of didn't meet each other in person until well after the program. So it's really wild. The people that you'll meet at SSP are 1, super talented, 2, really good at collaborating and really nice to talk to, and 3, just super passionate about what they're interested in. And it's a really good group to kind of surround yourselves with, because even after the program, when I'm talking to my friends from SSP, I talk to them about what they're doing, and they're doing so many interesting things, and it kind of motivates me to do more, to do better, because the group really is good at pushing without making it feel competitive, which is something that I hadn't really encountered before SSP. And if you get to do the program, you'll definitely make some lifelong friends. In college, I've had the chance to meet up with my SSP friends, and some of them go to the same school as me, and they're just really good friends to have on day one. And some of these friends you'll stay in contact with for ages after, go on trips with them, get to know exactly what's happening in their lives, even as you're thousands of miles apart. And I think overall, I just have to agree with everyone and say that the best part of SSP is the people. And I guess I'll give it back to Ms. B.
Yes, thank you. Thank you to all 6 of our alumni speakers. I appreciate you being here, and I'm sure everyone enjoys hearing your firsthand experience. There was a question that just came through the chat for you alumni. Was anyone a sophomore when they applied? You all juniors? All of them
My
juniors.
sister was a sophomore at
Right.
astrophysics. Yeah.
Yes. very, very few people overall get in, and very, very few, very few sophomores get in. Sophomores should usually, in most cases, wait to apply as juniors. For the astrophysics program, the prerequisites are a little bit different for sophomores. So if you're a sophomore applicant, do look at those prerequisites. If you have met the prerequisites and you are ahead of the typical course progress at your school, so if you're taking classes that are typically taken by juniors and seniors and you're maxing out your high school, then there might be reason to apply as a sophomore, but usually sophomores should wait. There is a little bit of an explanation on the frequently asked questions page of the website. Yes, if you apply as a sophomore, you can apply as a junior. We hope that you do. If you apply as a sophomore and you don't get in, please try again the next year. You do have to start your application over. You'll have to start with a new login and there will be nothing saved. So you're starting as a fresh applicant and the reviewers won't know that you had applied before. Unless
Yeah,
you tell them.
I
You can
personally
tell
applied
them,
as a,
but we won't tell them. Go ahead, Neil.
yeah, I personally applied as a sophomore and did not get in, but was accepted my junior year.
So Neil, that showed fortitude and good character on your part that you didn't feel so discouraged after being rejected the first time that you ran away and never asked again. You came back.
Stuck.
Good for you.
Yeah, and I
Good for you.
think you actually I changed my program in what I applied for because your interests really change over that 1 year.
Yes, you will be a better applicant as a junior. So you might be an okay or pretty good applicant as a sophomore, but you are, as a sophomore, competing with yourself the next year. So just wait and be more prepared, more well-rounded. You'll have more experiences. You'll have taken more classes. There'll be more to talk about. Someone in the chat asks, can I apply to multiple programs? No. When you finalize your application, so before the deadline, you need to decide on astrophysics, biochemistry, or genomics. You don't know which campus you're going to. You can, in the application, state which dates you're available for. If the early session doesn't work for you, you can tell us that, likewise with the late. And if you have a campus preference, you can tell us, but you can also say you have no preference. And that's not taken into consideration during the admissions review process. They're not looking at whether you're available on a certain date, not the other one. They're not looking at what your campus preferences are. There's a couple of questions about what does the admissions committee look for? Does academic improvement, is that taken into account when looking at grades? Yes, the reviewers look at everything. So a reviewer is going to look at the transcript that's provided. They are going to read all of the recommendations, either 2 or 3 recommendations. They're going to read every word of your essay, and they'll probably read everything a few times. So all of that is taken into account in context. We want to get to know you. So don't try and guess what is going to sound good or what the reviewers want to hear. Just the easiest way to apply is just tell us honestly about who you are, what you like to spend your time doing, what you're excited about. It's really easy to write just what's true about you and what's authentic rather than trying to guess what might sound good to these reviewers that you don't know. All of the reviewers are real people. We're not going to tell you too much about them, or we're certainly not going to tell you who they are, but they are actual people. Many of them are connected with the program, and in some way they're connected and they care about you. They care about the applicants, but all they know about you is what you provide in the application. So be as honest and as thorough as you can be in showing who you are. And they do take everything into consideration. We're not able to tell you if something is more important than another, if test scores are more important than grades, if this extracurricular is more important than that one. It's all different. Lots of different kinds of people get admitted. So just tell us about you.
There are a
What
lot of
other
questions about the schedule. And so let me just comment that in general, you're working and playing and working with your colleagues all waking hours. That's the simple, what are the hours? All of them. It's a simple one sentence answer. There are differences in detail between projects and between campuses, but mostly we want you to be willing to go with the flow, and whatever is scheduled for that day, be willing to go ahead and do it with us. Most of the time is scheduled. There's not a lot of off time, free time, personal time. There's a little bit, but not much. Any of the alumni want to chime in on that theme of what does each the day look like, or what does the schedule overall look like?
I can talk about, at least for biochemistry at Purdue, it definitely changed over the course of the program and where you are with your research. Especially near the beginning, we definitely had a lot more lecture. But then as we kind of got the foundational knowledge, we usually had like 1 or 2 lectures in the morning, and then went to the lab, had lunch, went back to the lab, and then at around 5-ish, we left for dinner. And then if you needed some more work before the next day, you'd go back into the lab after dinner to do additional research. And if you didn't need to, then you usually had some free time. But I think for a lot of people, especially as the program progressed, there was many evenings returning to the lab and continuing work and whatnot, plenty to do. But there's also, moments of free time. But it's definitely not like it ends at dinner.
And weekends?
Yes, weekends as well.
Yes, weekends are days too. Other alumni want to chime in on the schedule? Maybe someone from astrophysics?
I can speak to the schedule here at the University of North Carolina. Class started at 9 o'clock a.m., which you might think, oh, wow, it's starting later, until you realize that in some nights you're going to stay up till 3 o'clock observing 3 a.m. So it's definitely, you're going to need to manage your sleep there. But we had morning lectures until lunchtime. We had lunch, and then we had afternoon lectures. And then after that, we had about an hour and a half in the lab to work on problem sets or your orbital determination code. And there's a lot of programming with this camp, so especially at the astrophysics. So we spend a lot of our times programming at the computers in the lab. Then we go to dinner, and then after that, you're really responsible for managing your time of when you need to be in the lab and doing your coding or other problem sets. So typical day is lecture, lunch, lecture, work on programming, dinner, then work on programming until the lab closes at about 12 o'clock, and then you should get some sleep.
There is a lot of programming, someone asked, in the astrophysics project, right?
Yes, a lot.
I think I'll answer some of the questions that have been asked about genomics. One was about if I've taken math up through pre-calc 2 as a math prerequisite for genomics met. And to that, I would say definitely genomics isn't too math intensive. There definitely are some sections where you're working with maybe like statistics, but it's nothing too crazy. And then so I was also going to expand on the schedule, and I believe our schedule usually started with 8 a.m. in our lab building, but like Alexis said, our schedule pretty much changed throughout the course of the program. I believe throughout the beginning, we were more focused on wet labs. We were obviously doing lectures in between, but we were flip-flopping between lectures and wet labs. And then after we finished our experiment, which took about like 4 to 3 weeks, we were focusing on the bioinformatics part of the program, which was more just an analysis of different sequences, and then also writing up our report. So yeah.
I see a few questions about some detailed questions about applying, in particular transcripts. We require transcripts from 9th grade, 10th grade, and the current year. If you went to different schools, 2 different schools or 3 different schools, we do need records from all of those years. You can ask each school to send that separately, or you can ask your current high school to send all of your transcripts together. If they have them on file, they can send it all at once. We do not accept transcripts from you, the applicant, except for your current report card. So we do need some record of your grades and your classes that you're taking this year. If you have a report card or a screenshot of your grade report for fall 2022, you can send that yourself if it is not on the transcript. If you're not sure, you can send it, but if you know it's on your transcript, there is no need to send that separately. If you've taken dual enrollment as part of your high school experience, your high school can send that record, or you can ask the college where you're taking dual enrollment classes to send those records. But we would like to see from the school itself, or one school sending another school's records is the best way to do that. And we do ask that in the application, in the note to SSP, you let us know what transcripts to expect. If it's just one, you don't have to tell us. But if it's coming from 2 or 3 or more schools, it's helpful if you would just list those so we know if your record is complete or not. There was also a question about the supplemental file that is completely optional, and it can be anything that you want it to be as long as it fits within the file size. You can include links to other material, but we cannot guarantee that every reviewer is going to go follow every link that leads to another link that leads to another link.
We can guarantee that they won't.
That's right. They're not going to read
They don't
every
have
word.
time for that.
Yes, they'll open your supplement if you have one, and they'll take a look at, if there's one link, they'll probably click it and see what it is. But be very be thoughtful about what you include there. It should be things that are not reflected elsewhere in your application. If it adds some interesting information that you couldn't provide in any other way, then that's okay. But yes, they do have a lot to read, many applications, so please be mindful of their time. There was also a couple questions about the differences between campuses. So the projects are going to be pretty much the same. So all the Astro projects are working on the same research project. The 2 biochem projects are working on the same project. And so there isn't a whole lot of difference. Obviously, the faculty is different, different people, but they're kind of going through a similar schedule, a similar order of what everyone needs to learn. The differences really are just in the, where it is. The field trips are different. Not always, though. There's 3 programs in Indiana, and there was an overlapping field trip last year where all 3 programs went to the same place on the same day for a field trip. But typically, that's really the only difference, what the surrounding area provides. What is done on campus, the type of dorm that you will stay in, the type of dining hall that you'll eat in, that is all very similar from location to location. Does anyone see any other questions in the chat that we should answer out loud? I see a question about, is SSP need blind? Yes, for both international and for US applicants. Obviously for US because they're not applying until afterwards, but it's also need blind for the international applicants. Even though you're submitting your documents at the same time, they're going to 2 different committees who do not overlap. They don't talk to each other. So your application is handled by the admissions committee. They don't know if you're applying for aid or not. Your financial aid application goes to different people, and they'll deal with that separately, completely separately from the admissions committee.
Couple of questions about who can submit recommendations, and the answer is literally any adult who knows you. However, we request one from a science teacher, one from a math teacher, and one from someone else. Optionally, third recommendation. So the answer is, can so-and-so submit a recommendation? Yes.
And it's up to you to decide. We don't know who your teachers are, or who knows you better, or who you had online and who you had in person. So you may have very good reasons for choosing not your current math teacher or not your current science teacher. That's okay. And if you feel like it deserves some explanation, you can use the note to SSP in the application to just make a quick, a sentence about why you chose one teacher over another. There are some very good reasons to choose someone and not your current person who's teaching you. So that's okay. It's up to you to decide and up to you to provide an explanation if you think it's warranted.
Your swimming coach, you might say you're an excellent swimmer, but that's not very helpful for our reviewers. So think about what message that you're trying to communicate by asking this person to write your letter. Was a question, what do you mean by programming? Is this related to the courses or simply terminology for the scheduling? Well, it's not a course, it's research, and the research is calculating the orbit of an asteroid in the astrophysics program, and that is a Python program that each team writes from scratch themselves. So they have to write Python code to complete their research project. And we teach you how to do that. You don't have to know when you get there.
There's a question in the chat to the alumni asking if you had lab experience, or I'd expand that to astrophysics or astronomy experience. Did you have specific experience in the project that you applied to before you applied? And you don't all have to answer, but anyone who would like to. JD?
Yeah, I can speak to that. I actually went into this program having like no formal, having taken no formal physics class before, so I was definitely nervous going in with that. I had a fairly strong math background, which is the main reason why I applied to this program, to be able to apply a lot of the math that I've been studying to the actual, a real world research project, such as determining the orbit of an asteroid. So going in, I would have to say that I didn't have that much experience in the field, but it was definitely a really, really good learning experience for me to see what it looks like, what work looks like in this field. And if I wanted to pursue it further, I can make an informed decision.
To add on to that, I think in our program at Biochemistry at Purdue, there's definitely a huge variety of people's prior experiences. And I think because of the really collaborative and positive community, everyone was able to learn what they needed to know and ask questions, get answers, and ultimately reach their goals. And I think for me, I didn't have official, like, worked in a lab with this professor research experience, but I did like a lot of projects in my garage using like equipment I managed to like replicate using like an oven or like a drill fuge instead of a centrifuge. And I feel like that prepared me well. So I would encourage everyone just to apply. And I think that you'll find that your unique experience will serve you well and you'll learn from everyone at SSP.
Yeah, I had no prior research experience before SSP. I just had some experience from my classes. But it was definitely an amazing experience getting exposed to it. There was, I did not like feel that I was not prepared by not having any prior research experience or anything. Everyone is very helpful.
Yeah, I can talk about that a little bit. I came in with no experience, not like a Alexis. I hadn't even gone in like a garage. I'd like done labs and like science classes before, but like no real formal experience in which I was like using a pipette or anything like that for like biochem. But I came in with the idea of like the topics, which I think was helped me prepare for it.
Maybe the alumni could talk on the question of you've been applying to colleges for the last several months. Did applying to SSP, was that useful experience when you went to apply to college? If so, how? In other words, would it be worthwhile even if you didn't get into SSP just to go through that exercise? We said that earlier, but was it true for you?
I can definitely say that applying to SSP really helped me out in the college application process. It helped me to get my confidence up and kind of gave me a college-like application a year before I was actually going to start filling them out. And I will say the SSP application is very much like the MIT application. There are a lot of similarities there. And that really helped me in filling out the MIT application when I was applying. And don't tell anyone, but I actually used some of the answers on that I put on the SSP application on the MIT application. I can nearly copy them word for word, but I changed up a couple bits of it and had a successful application with that. So I would have to say that applying to SSP was really helpful in that process.
I'm in the same boat as JD. I did the same thing. I did reuse and sort of kind of recycled some of the essays I used for SSP, definitely. But I think it definitely is an exercise that is useful to the college application process. Obviously, those 6 weeks, you don't have much time to focus on your application, which is what a lot of juniors are doing at that stage of their summer. But I definitely had enough time when I got back home to, I mean, I got back home and I was already in that sort of working mindset. So I utilized not only like working with those types of essays, but also just being inspired by the people I met at SSP. So yeah.
I'll second this. I definitely use some of my SSP essays for college applications, with changes obviously, but pretty heavily inspired by that brainstorm. And one secret benefit you'll get out of SSP is every time I wrote a college essay that I was going to submit somewhere, some of the first people that read it were my SSP friends. It's a very good collaborative group that is willing to help you out as much as you need. I have a friend who read like 80% of my essays from SSP, and like we all kind of helped each other out with this process because everyone's going to college as one big group. It's not just you going to college.
I'd say it definitely helped. I think just the process of filling out the application and like time management and like also gaining confidence and like just filling out an application, and you might have to wait for a long time. You don't know if you're going to get in, and you get in or you don't. And I just think the more that you apply to things and take those risks and deal with those skills of like, maybe I shouldn't submit this on the last day that it's due, I think is a very good idea when moving forward with college applications, especially because you'll likely have a lot. So it's good to get those skills, started.
All right, I see a lot of questions about different classes meeting the prerequisites and what the prerequisites are for each. And I'm not going to answer those out loud, but I'll ask you all to look at the website. There is a section just on prerequisites, and they're listed out there very clearly by project. So please visit that. If you are at an international school and you're not sure, if your class is just called math and you're not sure what level that puts you at, you can email admissions. There's also a place for international applicants to describe what topics they have learned in math or physics. If you're applying to Astro, then you can do that as you register your application. And so you can just, if your math is called math, you can tell us what the highest level topics in math you have studied so far. And there was another question about the supplemental material. It can be anything you want. You don't have to submit one. How many alumni of U6, how many submitted a supplement? Do you remember? Half, not, yeah. It's okay if you don't have anything else to say, don't make it up, don't stretch and come up with something. Don't write an extra essay just because you feel like you have to submit something. If you have something you think is important, go ahead and put it in there. There are no guidelines other than the file size. You could be creative, you can share whatever work you've done in the past, you can share photos, anything you want. Yes, you can submit a website. You can have a link to your website or a website that shows work that you've done with someone else. There's, I saw there was another question which was answered in the chat, but I want to add on to what the workload is like. If it's heavy, it's a lot of work, and it's sometimes so much work that you cannot do it all. If you're asking that question because you want to know if you can also take an online class or be writing your college applications or taking an SAT prep course, the answer is no. You cannot be doing any one of those things. You can't have any other commitments or obligations outside of SSP. So the workload is that heavy that you cannot do anything else. Some days it's going to be so heavy that you don't get all your work done and you have to decide, okay, I have to give up now and go to sleep and we'll start again tomorrow. But there is social time. Sometimes it's spontaneous. Sometimes the TAs will say, you know, hey, let's go do this. Sometimes there are planned activities that the site director plans. Sometimes that's a field trip and, you know, a big activity that's getting on a bus and going away. Sometimes it's something on campus. So those are kind of sometimes built in, sometimes spontaneous. There's also always a few minutes here and there that, you know, maybe there's some downtime in the evening where you go play Frisbee, you know, a group that wants to. It's not required, and some people just do that. There's a group, there's always a group that exercises in some way, either by going for a run in the morning or, you know, doing whatever workouts that they can do around the dorm. So there is some time. There's a lot of walking from building to building, so you'll get exercise that way. So it's not being locked in a building 24/7 doing your work. There's time to move around and get out and do fun things. But the workload is heavy enough that you will be working all the time. And when you're not working, you will be busy doing social things or sleeping. So do not count on doing anything else. I see a question that just popped up about having one-on-one interactions with the professors. There's not necessarily a scheduled one-on-one meeting for each and every participant, but the faculty is there every day. You're eating meals together, you're walking from one place to another with them, you're running into them all day long. So there is plenty of time to get to know them, for them to get to know you, and for you to ask your questions of the directors as well as the TAs. So you'll know all of them very well by the end of the program.
The schedule does include a lot of activities besides the research, just to be clear. There are field trips, the guest lectures, other things like talent show, pool party, other, you know, bowling. It depends on the campuses, what are the details are, hiking. But, you know, there'll be, somebody will announce at dinner, hey, anybody wants to play soccer, meet me out at the field at 7:30. And, you know, if you want to play soccer, you go out to the field at 7:30 and run around for an hour. So there's a lot of that. Sometimes there's swing dancing classes or yoga classes or whatever the people there want to do. So, you know, people play music. The main thing is that it's immersive so that everyone's together and they're having fun, they're working hard, they're having fun, they're working hard, and it's all mixed together.
Oh, to add to that, I second that. Me and a couple other folks at Purdue Biochem did a little string quartet, which we performed at the talent show. And I think that highlights another great part of SSP is that just everyone is so incredibly talented at all these different things, and you can find people with similar interests and just use your free time to, well, you know, your varying amounts of free time to do whatever, you know, interests you and whatnot. So it's a good time.
I heard something about top of the roof of the parking deck, sunrise or something like that.
I think it was probably sunset. I don't know if
Sunset.
it was sunrise, but
I don't
correct
know.
me if I'm
Both.
wrong.
Yeah, that's definitely our Purdue campus. There's Indiana's very flat, so like a high point is a parking garage. You can kind of see the sunset off of it. We go there some nights and watch it. It's pretty. We can talk.
It became a thing that you guys just organically started doing, and it turned into a tradition of yours. Every program has a few of those things.
Yeah, I'd say the sunset parking garage moments were very special. And the Indiana sky is very beautiful, I have to say, even though it's flat and I was not expecting to enjoy a flat space. But it was very nice.
All right, we are getting close to the top of the hour. We have time for a few more questions. So if we missed your question in the chat, feel free to put it on. Know that you can email questions to admissions@ssp.org. We also have a Discord server, which I will put the link in the chat. You can join the Discord and ask questions there. Does anyone see a last few questions that we could handle out loud?
Why are there fewer genomics participants? That's because it's only the second year that we've done this, and we're still getting things kind of stabilized with the equipment. It's a new equipment for us, a new project, so that's why it's smaller.
There was a question about the taking, I don't know if it's taking AP Calculus and mechanics, taking the class or taking the test. If you are taking the class in school, then that does count toward the prerequisite. If you are not taking the class, but you're self-studying to take the test in May, that does not count. Self-study does not count. If you self-studied a test and you have already taken the test, if you have that result from last year or a prior year, you can submit that. But if if you're planning to do it, it hasn't happened yet, then no, that is not the prerequisite unless you're in that class in your school. Someone asked if they're the one program more competitive than the others. The answer is mostly no, but also we don't know because we don't know how many are going to apply to each program in any given year. So we know how many spots we have, but we don't know how many people are applying for those spots. So we can't tell you. But there isn't a drastic difference. It evens out.
I've seen a question a few times on just how much programming skill is required going into the program. Once again, like there's a lot of varying backgrounds going into the program. Some of us had more programming experience and some others did not have any. It obviously would help to know a little going in, but if you don't know anything, don't worry because they will teach you and there will be lectures on this.
There's also for all programs, there is a pre-program reading material. And for astrophysics participants, that does include intro to Python. If you haven't had that already, you get to brush up on it and study it and get your intro before you arrive. And we provide that, hoping that you do spend some time with those pre-program materials. One last question. I see that there's a question from an international about getting a visa. That is explained when you register. We do ask for your visa status. We do require that you apply for a visa now and have go ahead and get that appointment scheduled and get your visa ahead of time. We are not able to assist you in getting a visa. And if you don't have one and are not able to get one, we won't be able to review your application. And that is all explained on the website and within the application itself. If you already have a visa, you enter that information into the application. We're at the top of the hour now, so I think we need to wrap it up. I want to say thank you again to the alumni who spent this time with us and sharing their experience and helping to answer questions. The recording of this will be available. I will link it on Discord, so if you're there or if you will be joining, you'll be able to find it there under announcements. Also, if you would like to request a copy, you can email admissions@ssp.org. And I thank you all for joining us, and I thank you for your interest in SSP. And please do use the website and the other resources that we've provided for your additional questions.